The Isdal woman, Norway's coldest case. On November 29, 1970, a university professor and his two daughters were hiking through Isdalen, the ice valley near Bergen, Norway, when they discovered something that would haunt Norwegian investigators for decades: a woman's body, partially burned, lying among the rocks in one of the most desolate spots in the region. The horrifying scene: the woman was found face down in a remote rocky area. Her face, neck, and chest were severely burned, and she was positioned in an odd manner against the rocks. The scene suggested something deeply sinister. Around her body, investigators found empty bottles of liquor and sleeping pills, phenamol, burnt rubber boots, jewelry with identifying marks scratched off, 2 plastic bottles containing gasoline, a burnt passport, and Norwegian currency. Her fingerprints had been burned away, all clothing labels were removed, and even the jewelry had been deliberately defaced. Someone, whether the woman herself or her killer, had gone to extraordinary lengths to prevent identification. A trail of false identities. As police investigated, they uncovered an increasingly bizarre pattern. The woman had traveled extensively through Europe in the months before her death, particularly across Norway, staying in various hotels under multiple fake identities. She used names like Fenella Lorch from Belgium, Alexia Zarna Merchez from Vienna, and several others. Every single identity was fabricated. The passport numbers didn't exist, the addresses were fake. At hotels, she exhibited strange behavior, always paying cash, requesting rooms away from main entrances, changing rooms frequently, and appearing nervous about being watched. Hotel staff remembered her differently, sometimes blonde, sometimes brunette, with or without glasses. She was clearly wearing disguises, likely wigs, and deliberately altering her appearance. The coded mystery. In her belongings, investigators found a series of coded notes written in a diary. The notes appeared to correspond to her travel itinerary, with abbreviated location codes and dates. Despite extensive cryptanalysis, the complete meaning of these codes has never been completely deciphered. The notes suggested meticulous planning and a level of operational security consistent with espionage tradecraft. 2 suitcases belonging to her were found at Bergen railway station. Inside, more clothes with removed labels, wigs, additional false identity documents, and Swiss francs and German marks. Everything pointed to a woman living multiple lives. How did she die? The autopsy revealed she ingested 50 to 70 sleeping pills, a lethal dose. Her body showed carbon monoxide in the blood, indicating she was alive when the fire started. There were bruises on her neck, though unclear whether from a struggle or the fall. The official conclusion was suicide. She took the pills, poured gasoline on herself, and set herself on fire. But many details didn't fit. The position of her body, the lack of a lighter or matches at the scene, and the professional manner in which her identity had been erased raised serious doubts. The spy theory. Given the Cold War context of 1970, the espionage theory gained significant traction. Her behavior matched that of intelligence operatives: constant movement, false identities, coded communications, cash transactions, and avoiding surveillance. Some investigators believed she was a spy, possibly East German, Soviet, or even working for Western intelligence, who had either been eliminated or chose suicide after a mission went wrong. Norway, despite its neutrality, was strategically important during the Cold War due to its proximity to Soviet naval bases. Bergen itself was a NATO hub. The timing and location weren't coincidental. Recent developments. The case was officially closed in 1971, but has been reopened multiple times.
In 2016-2017, Norwegian journalists launched a major podcast investigation that reignited public interest. Using modern forensic techniques, investigators created a facial reconstruction and isotope analysis of her teeth, suggesting she possibly came from Central Europe, maybe Germany or the Alsace-Lorraine region. Despite DNA testing and international appeals, no family member has ever come forward. No missing person report matches her description. The enduring mystery. More than 5 decades later, the Isdal woman remains Jane Doe. Was she a spy caught in a Cold War operation gone wrong? A woman fleeing a dangerous past? Or someone who simply wanted to disappear? Her grave in Bergen bears no name, just Isdal woman. Every year someone leaves flowers there, anonymous tributes to a woman whose identity, life, and death remain one of Europe's most compelling unsolved mysteries. The case remains technically open, waiting for the breakthrough that might finally give this mysterious woman back her name.
The suburbs of Oakland County, Michigan, were the kind of place where children rode their bikes until sunset, where parents never locked their doors, and where everyone knew their neighbors. It was the American dream, safe, peaceful, prosperous. But in the winter of 1976, something evil came to Oakland County, and it would shatter that innocence forever. The first victim, Mark Stebbins. February 15, 1976. 12-year-old Mark Stebbins told his mother he was going to watch a movie at the American Legion Hall in Ferndale. It was just a few blocks away. He'd be home by 9 p.m. Mark never came home. 4 days later, his body was found in a snow-covered parking lot in Southfield. He had been carefully laid out, almost posed in the snow. His clothes were clean and freshly laundered. His body showed signs of meticulous grooming. Someone had bathed him, washed his hair, even trimmed his nails. Mark had been sexually assaulted and then suffocated. But what disturbed investigators most was the care taken with his body. The killer had kept Mark alive for those 4 days, caring for him like a parent would care for a child, before ending his life and displaying him like a doll. The community was horrified, but they told themselves it was an isolated incident, a terrible tragedy, but surely it wouldn't happen again. They were wrong. The second victim, Jill Robinson. December 22, 1976. 12-year-old Jill Robinson had an argument with her mother 2 days before Christmas. In a moment of teenage defiance, she ran away from home in Royal Oak. She took her bicycle and told her mother she was leaving forever. But Jill didn't get far. 4 days later, on December 26th, a motorist found her body along the side of I-75 in Troy. She was lying face up in the snow, her arms spread out. Like Mark, she had been carefully washed and groomed. Her clothing was clean and neatly arranged. She had been held captive for days before being shot in the face with a shotgun at close range. But here's what made investigators' blood run cold. Jill's bicycle and backpack had been dropped off at a different location, as if the killer wanted them to be found, as if this was all part of some sick game. The killer had kept her alive, fed her, cared for her, then executed her and displayed her body like a Christmas angel in the snow. Oakland County was no longer just worried. They were terrified. The third victim, Christine Mihalik. January 2nd, 1977, 10-year-old Christine Mihalik vanished while walking home from a 7-Eleven store in Berkeley. She had gone to buy a magazine. Her mother expected her home in 15 minutes,
19 days later, her body was found in a snowbank in Franklin Village. Like the others, she had been bathed, her hair styled, her clothing clean and carefully arranged. She was lying on her back, her arms at her sides, as if peacefully sleeping. Christine had been smothered to death. The medical examiner estimated she had been kept alive for at least 4 days before being killed, just like the others. But there was something new this time. The killer had placed her body near a busy road, as if wanting her to be found quickly. And investigators noticed something else. Christine's body showed no signs of prolonged exposure to the elements, even though she'd been missing for 19 days. Where had the killer kept her? And why did he wait so long before displaying her body? The fourth victim, Timothy King. March 16th, 1977. 11-year-old Timothy King asked his mother if he could walk to a nearby pharmacy to buy candy. She said yes, but told him to come straight home. Timothy was a responsible kid. He always listened. Timothy was last seen leaving the pharmacy at 8:30 p.m. 6 days later, his body was found in a ditch in Livonia, about 20 miles from where he disappeared. Like the others, Timothy had been bathed and groomed. His clothes were clean and neatly pressed. But this time, the killer left a message.
Timothy's body showed evidence that he had been kept alive for several days. He had been well fed. In fact, his stomach contents revealed he had eaten fried chicken shortly before his death. Not just any fried chicken, but a specific type that forensic analysts traced to a local restaurant chain. The killer had taken Timothy out to dinner before murdering him. Timothy had been suffocated with a ligature. His body was positioned carefully in the ditch, arms at his sides, as if the killer wanted him to look peaceful. But the most chilling detail? Several witnesses reported seeing a boy matching Timothy's description in the back seat of a blue AMC Gremlin on the day before his body was found. The boy was sitting calmly, as if he knew the driver, as if he trusted them. The investigation. The Oakland County Child Killer Task Force became one of the largest investigations in Michigan history. Over 18,000 tips poured in. Hundreds of suspects were questioned. Polygraph tests were administered. Handwriting samples were collected. But the killer left almost no physical evidence. No fingerprints, no DNA. This was before modern DNA testing. No witnesses who could definitively identify a suspect. What they did know painted a terrifying picture. The killer was organized and intelligent. He planned meticulously, leaving no trace evidence. He had a place to keep his victims, somewhere private where he could hold children for days without arousing suspicion. A house? A basement? A secluded cabin? He cared for his victims before killing them. He bathed them, fed them, groomed them. This suggested a twisted parental instinct, or perhaps he was reliving something from his own childhood. He wanted the bodies to be found. He displayed them in public places, positioned carefully, as if the killer wanted him to look peaceful. He was local. He knew the area intimately, which roads were busy, which were secluded, where to find children alone. The suspects. Over the years, several suspects emerged. Christopher Bush, a convicted child predator who died by suicide in 1978. He lived in Oakland County during the murders. His suicide occurred shortly after he was questioned by police about the killings. Here's what made investigators suspicious. Shortly before his death, Bush's bedroom was thoroughly cleaned with industrial-strength chemicals, as if someone was destroying evidence.
When police searched his property, they found ropes, children's clothing, and disturbing photographs. But Bush's family was wealthy and politically connected. Some investigators believe they helped cover up his involvement and that Bush was protected from serious investigation. In 2012, DNA testing excluded Bush as a contributor to biological evidence found on one victim. But some detectives still believe he was involved, possibly working with an accomplice. Arch Sloan, Bush's associate, also a convicted child molester. He claimed that Bush had confessed to killing the children, but provided no concrete evidence. Sloan died in prison in 2005.
Another associate of Bush, convicted of molesting children during the same time period. He's currently serving life in prison. In 2006, he allegedly told investigators he had information about the killer, but has never provided definitive evidence. The theories. Theory 1. A pedophile ring. Some investigators believe the killer was part of an organized pedophile network operating in Oakland County. This would explain the protection some suspects seem to receive and the sophisticated nature of the crimes. Theory 2. Multiple killers. Were all 4 murders committed by the same person, or were there copycats? The methodical care and presentation of the bodies suggests a single killer with a specific ritual, but some details differ between cases. Theory 3. The wealthy suspect. Several investigators have suggested the killer came from a prominent, wealthy family that used their influence to protect him from prosecution. This could explain why certain suspects were never fully investigated. Theory 4. The killer died or moved away. The murder stopped abruptly after Timothy King's death in March 1977. Why? Did the killer die? Move to a different state? Get arrested for an unrelated crime? Or did the intense media coverage and massive police presence simply scare him into stopping? The lingering questions. Why did the killer care for his victims before killing them? The bathing, grooming, and feeding suggest he was living out some twisted fantasy of being a parent or caretaker. Or perhaps he was reenacting his own childhood trauma. Why were the bodies displayed so carefully? This wasn't about hiding evidence. The killer wanted the children to be found. He posed them peacefully, as if they were sleeping. Was this his way of showing mercy? Or was it part of the psychological game he was playing with investigators and the community? Why did the killings stop? 4 victims in 13 months, then nothing. Serial killers rarely stop on their own. Something changed. But what? Why were no ransom demands ever made? These children came from middle-class families. If the motive was money, why not demand ransom while the children were alive? Where did he keep them? For days at a time, in some cases weeks, these children were held captive somewhere. Where was this place? And how did no one see or hear anything? The family's nightmare. Barry King, Timothy's father, spent the rest of his life searching for his son's killer. He became obsessed with the case, conducting his own investigations, pressuring police, and speaking to the media. He died in 2020 without ever knowing who killed his boy. The other families suffered similar fates. Some marriages fell apart under the strain. Some parents developed mental health issues. Some never stopped looking over their shoulders, wondering if the killer was someone they knew, a neighbor, a shopkeeper, someone who smiled at them on the street. The case today. The Oakland County child killer case remains officially unsolved. The task force was disbanded years ago, though some detectives continued to investigate on their own time. In recent years, advances in DNA technology have brought new hope. Evidence from the crime scenes has been retested, new leads have been pursued, but so far, no definitive answers. The killer, if he's still alive, would be in his 70s or 80s now.
An elderly man, perhaps, living a quiet life somewhere, his dark secrets buried deep. Or perhaps he's already dead, having escaped justice, leaving behind only questions and grief. The shadow over Oakland County. Today, Oakland County looks much like it did in 1976. Prosperous suburbs, tree-lined streets, families raising children. But something changed forever in those 13 months of terror. Parents no longer let their children walk alone to the store. Doors stay locked. Strangers are viewed with suspicion. The innocence that once defined these communities died along with Mark, Jill, Christine, and Timothy. And somewhere, perhaps, the Oakland County child killer still lives. An old man now, carrying the weight of 4 stolen lives. Does he sleep peacefully? Does he ever think about those children? Does he feel remorse? Or does he still remember the feeling of power, of control, of playing God with innocent lives? The children's graves in Oakland County bear silent witness. 4 small headstones, 4 families destroyed, 4 lives cut brutally short, and one question that haunts Michigan to this day. Who killed the children of Oakland County? From Investigator. Some monsters wear human faces. They smile at you in the grocery store. They wave from their front porches. They look like everyone else. And that's what makes them so terrifying.
If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now before the next nightmare finds you.